I'm standing here on the shores of the Rapidan River in Virginia, and it was right here on May 4th in 1864 that the Union Army, several divisions, crossed on several pontoon bridges just beyond that modern bridge behind me at Germanna Ford. And it was the next day that they would clash with Lee's army in the Battle of the Wilderness. It would pit Grant against Lee for the first time, and the Confederacy, of course, would surrender about a year later. We're going to go visit the Wilderness Battlefield today. We're standing here on top of the bridge now. That's Germanna Ford right in front of us. The Rapidan River, the Union would have crossed right here on several pontoon bridges. Thousands of troops and wagons, artillery, horses on May 4th, 1864 on the way to the Battle of the Wilderness. Incredible. We're standing here at the site of Grant's headquarters during the Battle of the Wilderness. This was his camp on a little hill here for about 3 days. And of course there are the famous stories of him sitting here throughout the battle, sitting on a log, just whittling away as he listened to reports and gave orders. And he wore his gloves out from whittling so much. So here it is, the site of Grant's headquarters, just off the Orange Turnpike, right there in front of us. And this is the Lacy house, called Elwood, which is really right across the road from Grant's headquarters. And this was General Warren's headquarters, commander of the 5th Army Corps of the Union during the time of the battle. And out this way is the cemetery, and it is said that after General Stonewall Jackson lost his arm a year before this battle in 1863, and it was amputated, they buried it in the Lacy family cemetery. So we're going to go find that cemetery down this way and see if we can locate that. There are some stories that it was dug up by the Union troops, and then there were another story of the Marines here in 1921 digging it up. So I don't really know if it's still here, but we'll find that spot. And here is the location. This is actually the Jones family cemetery. And there it is. Of course, Stonewall Jackson died soon after. And here it is, beautiful country here. Like so many of these Civil War sites, it's just beautiful land, and it's always so hard to imagine the vicious fighting that happened in these places. So peaceful now. We're here at Saunders Field, which is about 1 mile west of the Lacy house. And it was here that the Battle of the Wilderness began, as the Union troops moved west to intercept Lee coming in from the west. And right here, the 140th New York was, I believe, the first regiment in action here, Saunders Field. Battle seesawed back and forth all day. Confederates in the trenches in that wood line in front of us. The Union in entrenchments behind us. And this regiment did get into the woods right there, but then they had to retreat back. We're going to take a look back toward where the Union attack started here at Saunders Field. The field was much bigger back then, 162 years ago. The Wilderness had very few fields of fire for artillery, but this is one spot right here on the side of the Orange Turnpike that the Union brought 2 guns forward here on the first day of the battle. And the Confederate line was right in those woods in the back here. Union line right behind me. So these guns are right in between the lines. They advanced with the Union infantry, but they were soon captured and I believe recaptured and captured again by the Confederates. So 2 guns of the Union captured right here, right on the side of the road. We're standing on the wood line of the Confederate entrenchments here on Saunders Field, looking back toward the charge of the 140th New York and others. And the Union lines would have been in those woods in the back there. You'll see a little depression across the middle of the field here, and that would offer some shelter to the wounded and others. All right, we're going to go look at the other side of the road and see the Confederate works on that side. All right, we've driven across the road to the southern part of Saunders Field here. We are in the Confederate lines at this point. It's amazing that even after 162 years, there's still so much of this remaining. And this battle seemed to be the beginning of trench warfare that moved into World War I. But look at these trenches here. I don't know, I always keep in mind that these are very young men, boys even, digging these trenches, trying to save their lives. They had families back home. Look out into the field here. The Union would have attacked from across the field there from the wood line. Come straight toward this position. They broke in through the Confederate lines a little bit down this way temporarily, but then were driven back. So this is Saunders Field here at Wilderness Battlefield. This is the Higgerson Farm. Again, one of the few open clearings here in the wilderness. And let's just suffice it to say here that the famous Union Iron Brigade was driven back from this area for the first time in their famous history. And I've walked down the dirt path here at Higgerson Field, and we found the remains of the Higgerson house. This is it. Wow. Okay, stop 6 is the Chewning Farm. And we'll just say here that Crawford's division of the Union 5th Corps took possession of the high ground here early on May 5th, and then were called by General Warren to pull back. But this was very significant high ground. From here, you could actually see the Lacy house. Confederates eventually took this area after it was abandoned. The Chewning house is up on the hill there somewhere, so we'll see if we can find it. What's wonderful about this battlefield, in a sense, is that it's not like Gettysburg and Antietam and Shiloh, Chickamauga. There's really nobody here. No tour buses. Very empty. As you see, not too many monuments. Even the veterans didn't erect much here. Later we'll take a look at a Vermont monument, and I think a New Jersey monument. But right here we're starting to head into the southern end of the battlefield, over by the Orange Plank Road. So there are two, in essence, separate battles going on here. One in the north on the Orange Turnpike, and one in the south on the Orange Plank Road. So we'll look at this, and then we'll head down to the Plank Road. I'm not sure, but that clump of trees in the center there, right there, is probably the site of the Chewning home. It's always interesting to remember that families lived out here and battle came to their farms. And right here at the top of the hill, we have a sign here about General A.P. Hill nearly being captured, Confederate general, right in this area. So again, read that book, Gordon Ray. And I'm hoping that by seeing some of this, if you never visited, if you're too far away to visit, you know, it might inspire you to read about it, and if you can, come out and visit the Wilderness Battlefield. Quiet, peaceful place now. These beautiful grasses here. All right, we're here at the Widow Tapp Field. I just met a wonderful family here, local family here in Virginia, a couple and their two children, and we had a nice conversation. Here at the Widow Tapp Farm, obviously the Widow Tapp had lost a husband, and she lived here with her 3 daughters and a granddaughter. She had 2 sons. They had both joined the Confederate Army. They were not here at the time of the battle, and when the Confederate troops arrived, they told her, you really better leave, and so she did. She headed west, and she survived the war. No problem in her family there. Here we have another sign about General Lee on the second day of the battle, when the Confederate troops were in crisis. The lines were breaking, the Union was beginning to overwhelm them, and Lee tried to lead some of the troops into battle, inspire them, but of course they told him to turn back, which he did. And then Longstreet's troops had arrived and stabilized the lines for the Confederate Army. All right, so here is the Widow Tapp Farm, General Lee's headquarters during the time of the battle. The house is straight in front of us. There's a 1-mile trail here. I don't know if we'll do it all. I do know there's a Texas monument here. Maybe we'll try to find that. The Orange Plank Road, I believe, is right in front of us there on the other side of those trees. And we'll be heading down there, I think, on the next tour stop. So let's walk some of this trail. Lots of little trails here at the battlefield. Again, empty place. Very nice walking around here. So let's see what we find up here. All right, this tablet shows us a little bit of the action here. This would be the Texas Brigade right there. So I think we're standing right in this area, on this side of the road. This is the road right here, just to our right. They led the counterattack, I believe. We're heading this way and see if we can find that Texas monument. Of course, their line would extend across the road, as you see right in front of us there, so they would have advanced from right to left in this picture. So on the morning of May 6th, thousands of Union troops would have charged across those fields there in the distance. And this line at that time, I believe, was held only by artillery from the Confederates, somewhere in this field. And it was then that the Texas Brigade came up, along with other brigades of Field's division of Longstreet's Corps, and drove the Union back. And it looks like we found the Texas Monument right here. So this is the Orange Plank Road, looking toward the Union positions, looking to the east. We're on the Widow Tapp Farm, and I'm stopping here so we can take a look at this marker that was put up as a tribute to mark the spot where the Texans exhorted General Lee to go to the rear as he was leading them into battle, which he did. Kind of a busy road here, trying not to get hit by a car. All right, so we're going to head this way. Here's the Texas Monument on the Widow Tapp Farm. It says they went into battle with 800 men. Small for a brigade. 4 regiments. Texas, 3 of Texas and 1 from Arkansas. And they had about, I think the sign says 500 casualties. So that's more than half of their brigade. So I hope this little tour, as we continue it, will inspire you, if you haven't been here, to come take a look, maybe read about it a bit. It is American history. This is our history. An ugly chapter, but our history nevertheless. 5th. And again, the Union troops would be coming from this side on May 6th on the morning, early on the morning, and really overrunning this area. But as I said, it was restored with Longstreet's arrival. We're at the western side of the Widow Tapp Farm right now, just off the road, the Orange Plank Road. And this sign is telling us that it was in that early morning of May 6th when Hancock's Union troops came charging through this area and drove the Confederate soldiers back to this area right here on the Widow Tapp Farm. And it was the Confederate artillery here that essentially held the position, and eventually Longstreet came up and, as we said before, brought up Gregg's brigade and many others that assisted in driving the Union back across the farm. So nice spot here today on the Widow Tapp Farm, here at the Wilderness Battlefield in Virginia. The Texas Monument that we saw would be over here to the right. We're standing on the side of the Orange Plank Road, just east of the Widow Tapp Farm. This monument was erected to honor General James Wadsworth, who was shot here on May 6th. He was mortally wounded, and he died 2 days later in a Confederate hospital. He is the same James Wadsworth that commanded the division of the 1st Union Army Corps over at Gettysburg, up on McPherson's Ridge, the first infantry to arrive there at that battle on the first day at Gettysburg. So we're now just south of the Orange Plank Road, really walking in the Union lines as they advanced here. from left to right. And it was somewhere in this area on May 5th, 1864, that Longstreet was wounded, leading his troops, or he may have been looking for a way to outflank the Union here in this area. Not sure exactly, but he was shot by his own men, very similar to what happened to Stonewall Jackson. However, Longstreet survived the wound and lived well after the battle. All right, we're going to now head over to the Brock Road intersection. We are on the Brock Road just north of the Orange Plank Road intersection. We found this monument here, marking the spot where Union General Alexander Hayes fell. He was a commander of the 2nd Division, 2nd Corps. He fell here on May 5th, 1864. He and his men were at Gettysburg, and they were right in the thick of it, repulsing Pickett's charge. And here he himself fell. And this is the famous Brock Road, Orange Plank Road intersection. This is the Brock Road right in front of us here. And the Orange Plank comes in from over there. Hancock's, a little bit of remains of Hancock's earthworks are right in front of us here. So this is the intersection that if the Confederates could take this, they would have blocked the Union road south from this area. Would have changed the campaign somewhat. And this map here might give you a little idea of the setup of the battlefield. Here's the northern end where we visited earlier, Saunders Field. And we drove along here, Higgerson's Farm, Chewning Farm, Tapp Field, and now we're in this area, the southern area of the battle. All right, so we're going to walk this half-mile trail right here at the intersection and find that Vermont monument. Again, that was Getty's division from the Union 6th Corps. Grant's brigade was the Vermont troops, and they fought in this area. And they held this intersection just in the nick of time before the Confederates arrived to block the Union Army's path south. Significant action here. In fact, I believe General Grant, not Ulysses S. Grant, another, who commanded the Vermont Brigade, arrived at the intersection first with his staff and said, we're going to have to hold this until the troops arrive. And so, from what I understand, he and his staff, just a small group of men, were ready to try to delay the Confederates just enough for the infantry to come in, and they did. All right, so it was in this area the action took place. Let's go find that monument. So these woods, I understand, are much more open than they were in 1864 when they were covered with dense underbrush. But here is the monument to the Vermont Brigade. As it says, they suffered 1,234 casualties defending this intersection. I don't know what the size of the brigade was, but boy, that's a lot of casualties. I think it was the most they suffered in any battle in the war. It was vicious fighting here. Often the woods caught fire, trapping many of the wounded. All right, so we have a visit to the Vermont Brigade here at Wilderness Battlefield. And right here we have a tablet that notes General Grant's decision on, I guess, May 6th or May 7th to not turn back, even though there was a stalemate here in the woods, costing about 30,000 casualties, and that the Union Army would continue south on to Richmond. And this horrendous battle really would just continue for weeks. The next stop being Spotsylvania. We'll visit that tomorrow or the next day. Alright, so right now we're going to head up to the final spot of the action here at the Wilderness Battle, the major action, way up back at Saunders Field at the extreme left flank of the Confederates when General Gordon and others launched an attack against the Union right flank late in the day on May 6th. And we'll go take a look at that and we'll complete our tour. We're now walking a 2-mile trail that starts at Saunders Field and heads along the Confederate entrenchments, which you see right here on our right. A little bit of the remains. So this trail follows the Confederate lines, crosses over to the Union lines, and circles back to the Wilderness Exhibit Shelter. 2 miles. And it was a little further up this trail that the Confederates attacked on the evening of the second day of the battle on May 6th, which was the final major action. Didn't do much except add to the casualty list, but did force the Union lines to pull back closer to the Lacy house. Then the Confederates took their entrenchments. And that was it. That pretty much ended the battle, and after that the armies began to head south towards Spotsylvania. This here is the Culpeper Mine Road, which was a road that led to the Confederate left flank. And troops from the Union 6th Corps assaulted here on the late afternoon of May 5th with no success. Culpeper Mine Road. Just a little path in the woods, really. And so Confederates will be attacking from left to right here in that final attack of the Battle of the Wilderness. If nothing else, it's a nice walk in the woods these days. Right now it's April 18th, 2026. So I'm visiting the battlefield here 162 years later, almost to the day. And we're leaving the trail right now, approaching the exhibit shelter again on the Orange Turnpike. This here is Saunders Field again. And I really do hope that you enjoyed seeing a few of these major sites at the Wilderness Battlefield here in Virginia, especially if you've not been able to get here. Again, I recommend you purchase the book by Gordon Ray. Very extensive but very interesting book on the Battle of the Wilderness, the opening of the Overland Campaign of 1864.